What's going on, guys? It is MurderInc here, back with another Raid Shadow Legends video. Today I'm going to be capping off this series I've been doing on Lord Shazar in the clan boss. Now, the only thing that I haven't talked about yet is how to use Lord Shazar in a counterattack setting, how well he can do. The results are actually incredible. Now, for the team I'm running here, I built it with pretty much just a straight up normal speed tune. However, in my opinion, there is a much better speed tune you can use. So first, let's go over which champions I'm using. As you can see here, I'm using Valkyrie, Alton, Septimus, Dracomorph, and Lord Shazar. Obviously, there's a really good synergy there between Dracomorph and an extender. I am kind of manualing at the beginning there up until round 2, not for any particular reason, just because I felt like I wanted to make sure that Lord Shazar uses A3 like we just saw there just before the stun. So we did make sure the threat went straight to Alton there for the stun always. Now, one thing you can do, and this was my point on the speed tuning, you can actually tune Lord Shazar to a 4:3 ratio. What I can get away with while using Valk in this team is Valk is pretty much an unkillable champion if you have her, if you've ever used her. So she's not the best showing for a counterattack, since I can pretty much, and what I did here, and I'll show you the gear after, I gave everyone incredible damage gear, including Dracomorph, Septimus. They have literally no defense, no HP, and I can get away with that because of the Valk shield and why it's so big. But one thing you can do is build Lord Shazar. If you wanted to do it tanky, you don't have a Valkyrie, and you want to get the most amount of damage out of Lord Shazar, because he's going to be huge for pretty much any team you have him in. He is practically a poisoner if you don't have a strong poisoner. I mean, as we've seen from other videos, he pretty much battles with Dracomorph, who's arguably the highest damage dealing, or maybe not arguably, it depends on who you ask, but the highest damage dealing clan boss champion in the game, which would be Dracomorph. And the fact that Lord Shazar can get so close with his numbers is pretty incredible. So if you can't replicate this team using a Skull Crusher, or you are using a Martyr, what can you do? You can definitely build Lord Shazar in defense type gear with the typical crit rate and as much crit damage and attack as you can possibly get out. However, one thing that's important is if you really want to maximize it, you want to get a 4:3 ratio on Shazar. So ideally you want him going 2 times in the just before the stun. You want him to go twice just before the stun. One time he's going to burn the extra turn, then get another turn. Then he's going to go again in that turn. So his extra turns will always be before and after the stun, and he will never extra turn after that first AoE to make sure he gets both counterattacks in, which is going to be very important if you are trying to min-max and get the most out of Shazar in a team comp like this. As we can see, we are just getting massive numbers. Now, if you consider this team, I mean, you can just look, this is Ultra Nightmare, 20 million damage on round 13. So if you really wanted to min-max and look at what he's doing, with perfect RNG, full debuffs with an attack up buff on himself, from either his A2 or an external source like a Doom Priest, if you use one to clear the debuffs on the champions for any affinity, this guy can do a 500,000 damage with his A1. So I've had him hit up to 167,000 damage per A1. So obviously that times 3. And then you consider the Giant Slayer procs on top of that. Whether you're using a Cruel set, or if you decide where you can actually use him with the Valkyrie and put him in a Savage set, obviously his Mastery damage is going to be higher. So these are ways you can really capitalize on Lord Shazar. Even if you don't have the gear I have, just give him 100% crit rate. Let's say you're getting Shazar with any poisoner. It doesn't have to be Dracomorph. You can use an Occult Brawler, Frozen Banshee. They all fill up the debuff bars very quickly. So if you are going to use those champions, and let's say you're getting 70,000, 80,000 damage out of Lord Shazar per hit, that is gigantic. That's pretty much the equivalent of having a poisoner on your team and not taking up any debuff slots. So that's definitely something to consider if you do have this champion going forward and pretty much trying to get him and working him into your clan boss team. I know in my Discord personally, I've seen tons of people starting to use Lord Shazar in their clan boss team, and it's really cool to see because this guy is kind of like a hidden gem if you didn't know that he could do so much damage. And Even with the reduced damage coming from the counterattack, we are just looking at massive output from this guy, and it's really cool to see. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to fast forward to the recap screen on the total damage dealt, and I will talk to you all there. All right, these are the final moments. As we can see, 46.32 million damage in a void affinity key. Now obviously if you wanted to go against red affinity, Shazar would pop off even more damage wise. Dracomorph wouldn't have as good of a time, but he still does a good amount of damage. So Alton did 4.8 million damage, Dracomorph did 16.9, Shazar did 12.6, Valkyrie at 3.9, and Septimus at 7.8 million damage. So obviously you can see right here how much Lord Shazar actually brings to a clan boss team. So this can definitely be a monster addition. Even if you don't have this gear, if you have to build them tanky, the fact that I can get 46 million out of this building straight damage with the Valkyrie definitely means you're well within a 2 key range, a 3 key range if you have to build a defensive team around Shazar, and you can really get benefit out of his A1 usage, especially if you do go that 4-3 route with his speed tuning. Now another thing you can do that I've noticed this more in the early difficulties. Obviously, as you go down in difficulty, specifically brutal for my case, accuracy requirement gets a lot more lenient. Now, Shazar actually has enough accuracy to land those debuffs, and even though bombs don't do a ton of damage to the clan boss, in between the gaps of Dracomorph filling the poison bar and with unlucky RNG with Septimus, letting the debuffs drop, that extra bomb damage is actually pretty big and definitely adds up quickly throughout the fight. So that's also something to consider. If you're using a poisoner that isn't consistently filling up those debuff bars and you have enough accuracy on your gears, even if you want to throw an accuracy banner on Lord Shazar, the bomb damage will add up and it will be an improvement on top of things. Even if you aren't satisfied with that bomb damage, also consider that you're applying another debuff to the boss that wouldn't already be there. So now you're giving the clan boss another debuff and further scaling Lord Shazar's A1 damage. Now what we're going to do is I'm going to go over the speeds I used for these champions, and I'll quickly show you the gear, although it's not that relevant unless you're copying this team exactly and want these specific results. So let's get right into that. So we'll start off with the highlight champion here, Lord Shazar. I'm pretty sure he has similar or close to the same gear he's had in all of the previous videos. Obviously his speed is going to be slightly different. Let's get into his total stats. He's running at 199 speed. So what I did is this speed tune is actually 191 to 200 and whatever I have Draco at. So these are his stats: 5.4 thousand defense, 242 crit damage, and as I mentioned before, 2.5 thousand defense, very low for Ultra Nightmare, and 30,000 health. This is basically running unkillable numbers with a Valkyrie, since in a sense, her shield makes her an unkillable champion. The next champion we have on this list is Valkyrie. She originally was geared for more damage. I didn't really min-max her gear the best that I could, and I probably should have for this video. Originally, I did give her damaging gear, so she had pretty much every benefit you could ask for on this champion. So she's at 193 speed. She's actually the second slowest, and I'll go over that with the next champion that is the slowest. 7.2 thousand defense, 38,000 HP, and the rest of the stats do not matter. As far as masteries, as I mentioned in every single video, all of the masteries for all of the champions are always the same, whether it's War Master and Defense Tree. The only thing different on this Valk is I have this Selfless Defender talent. This was used for arena content, so this will not apply. So if I wanted to give you an actual defense tree that you can use, you would just look at Alton here. This is the same for every War Master champion. And going to a Giant Slayer version, this is the Giant Slayer version with Shazar. Now let's hop back to Alton, take a look at his gear. I did use Lifesteal on Alton since he was taking the stun and consistently taking damage. I tried to give him as much damage as I could, but I didn't spend too much time min-maxing him. He's got 4,000 defense, 191 speed, so Alton is actually slower than the counterattack, definitely losing value. However, what this does, since Lord Shazar takes that extra turn, he's burning through more buffs than all of the other champions. So I needed a way to make sure that Alton always got stunned in this team, and it was never Lord Shazar. What I did was simply made Alton slower, so he was burning through his Valk shield, burning through his counterattack shield, and since he's the aura and in that first spot, I simply separated Lord Shazar and Alton as far as spacing goes. So Alton was in the first slot, taking the most threat. Lord Shazar was near the end, taking the least amount of threat based on how I positioned them in the clan boss team. So that is why Alton is slower than Valkyrie. And this is something you can use in any clan boss team you are looking for. If you are willing to sacrifice a counterattack hit from your lead aura champion, you can use this to guide the stun to always be on that champion. Granted, they're all at full health. Health conditions matter, the amount of current buffs, all of these things definitely lead up to the stun, but this is one easy way to make it happen by speed tuning. 261 accuracy, 244 crit damage. Like I said, nothing crazy with the gear. As mentioned in other videos, 3,500 defense is pretty much the baseline for any Ultra Nightmare team looking to progress in the content, and just being 500 defense over that limit is nothing impressive. Moving on to Septimus. Septimus is another champion that I kind of wanted to focus on crit damage over attack and all of that. Crit damage scales the best with his A2 enemy max health ability on the clan boss. So now that I went over the gear, 4,300 attack, 198 speed, so he's going after Draco always to make sure he is extending those buffs. 262 crit damage, 246 accuracy, and as mentioned before, low defense, low health. Definitely not Ultra Nightmare ready, but once again, Valk shield 100% carrying this champion. Now the final champion we have here is in fact Dracomorph. He is also in 6 pieces of cruel gear, has full damage gear, attack ring, and we just don't care at all about survivability. 5,100 attack, 202 speed, 251 crit damage, 265 accuracy, and low health, low defense as well. So these are the champions that I used for Lord Shazar. And if you don't have Lord Shazar and you're just watching this just for the fun of it, one thing you can definitely pick up on in this video is if you have Valkyrie, you can definitely use the concept I'm using to your advantage. If you have 3 really big damage dealers and you have an attack down champion that you can make sure always takes the stun, you can pretty much disregard all defensive stats on the other 3 champions and make them full damage. This will work very well up until round, I want to say 20. And this also depends on how much defense your Valkyrie has, how long you can keep them protected before they start taking damage, if you choose not to give them lifesteal, because once it starts burning through the shield, they're going to lose health, they're not going to regenerate it, and they're going to start getting stunned. So what you can do, you can definitely replicate this to your success and use damage dealing champions, not worry about defense and health pretty much at all, as you saw from the stats I was using. And you can use this to 3 key, 2 key, and you would actually be surprised at how well you can actually do if you do have a Valkyrie. If you don't, good luck in the next 2 times, and I hope you pull it. Don't forget, if you like this content, subscribe, turn on that notification bell so you don't miss my next video, and I will see you all in the next upload.